Good afternoon and welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network. I am Zoe Sozo here live at CPAC 2021 in Orlando, Florida. I am joined here by Darius Mayfield. Darius Mayfield is currently running for Congressional office. Darius, tell us a little bit about yourself, and thank you so much for sitting down with us today.
Thank you guys for having me. I've been a big fan of this network for a while, since the beginning when I saw you guys first kind of come out when Trump first started running, so it's really an honor to be here today.
Thank you.
I'm running for Congress in New Jersey's 12th Congressional District, which covers municipalities as far south as Trenton and goes up as far north to Hackensack and places of that sort. It's actually one of the bigger districts in New Jersey. It has over 20 different municipalities in it, so it's widespread. There's an array of different people in that district. Fortunately for me, it's actually the district that I was born and raised in, so I've actually went to elementary school there, went to middle school, went to high school, so I have a lot of friends there. My family has a lot of name recognition there, so I'm excited to just kind of throw my hat in the ring and get out there and just continue being the change we want to see. I come from very humble beginnings, single mother, didn't know my father growing up. I have a little sister, and my mom worked hard to get us a better education. And you know, I know we're going to probably talk about some of my issues, but school choice is a very big issue to me, because when I was younger, I was born and raised in the hood. I remember hiding under tables with my mother and my little sister while they were shooting outside and things like that. And I remember one day I was in elementary school and I got chased with a knife in school. I ran all the way home that day, all the way home, and my mother never sent me back. And what she did was she actually used my aunt's address that was living in a town called South Brunswick, which was a middle-class suburban neighborhood, to send me to school after she took me out of that school. Unfortunately, about a year or two into me being in school, somebody told on my mother, and they started investigating her and found out I was using my aunt's address. So they actually approached my mother and basically threatened to sue her for all kinds of money for sending us to a school that a district that we weren't actually living in at the time. And my mother, being the fighter she is, kind of fought back, got to talk to him, and what she ended up doing is picking us up and moving to the poorest part of that same suburban neighborhood, right next to the trailer park, so me and my sister could receive the education we deserved and the education we wanted. And if she hadn't done that, I probably wouldn't be here talking to you today, to be honest with you. So very unique story. You know, from there, I know if anybody out there knows me, you guys heard a little bit of my story. I was a little bit of a wild child, you know, growing up. You know, who knows whether it's from my father not being there or just being a boy. But I'm lucky and fortunate and blessed to be here today, to be doing the things that I'm doing, especially looking at where I came from. I ended up getting into the automotive industry at the age of 17. I became the youngest sales manager in one of the top 10 dealership auto groups in the country. And about 3 years ago, I became the first black general manager in that same auto group. So I've been very fortunate, and me throwing my hat into the ring now is really just to start bringing the American people's voice to our House of Representatives. You know, one thing I often say, and one thing I really believe, is watching over the last 4 years, one of the things I really didn't like is just watching our representatives speak so disparagingly and speaking so down to their own constituents. You know, regardless if they're in the same party, they're Democrat or Republican, and they agree or not, at the end of the day, our elected officials have a job to present themselves and always carry themselves with class and tact, and, you know, spread that example on to other people. So I haven't seen that happening over the last 4 years. I think too many public officials have been too comfortable, as I said, disparaging and talking down, and we want to go to Washington and change that.
Wow. Well,
sorry to be so
no, it's exactly what we need. And going back to father figures in the home, you know, the left has continuously discredited and want to just undermine how important it is to have fathers in the home, the nuclear family system. And now, like, having figures like yourself, are you father, family based, you know, all of these things, like, this is something that we need to continue pushing forward, someone who holds these values to heart. So with your run coming up, you know, what other issues are you focusing on? Of course, you're a conservative, pro-life, and all of these other things. What else do you want to bring to the forefront?
Well, as you said, you know, pro-life for sure. I think that's very important, especially coming from the environment that I come from, where, you know, abortion is so prominent, and it seems to be something that women, especially the area I come from, don't even think twice about, to be honest with you, and neither do the guys, and that's a shame.
And black women are targeted at a higher percentage than any other race as far as abortions, and that's a huge
ask
issue.
Yourself, why do you see all the Planned Parenthoods we see are in the hood?
Exactly.
When I moved to South Brunswick, there was no Planned Parenthood in South Brunswick in the suburban neighborhood. They're all in the hood. So, regardless of what side of the fence you fall on, you have to ask yourself why. And we know, even the history of it with Margaret Sanger, being the one that created it, and understanding that when she created this, and this is fact, that she said, I did this to get rid of the undesirables, which she included blacks, Jews, and people with disabilities, which is so sad because me and my partner, we do a lot of work in the autism and Down syndrome field. So, to hear somebody, again, like our politicians, speak so disparagingly about one group is just never good, and it's never okay. As far as my other issues, one of my main issues is going to be unity. And when I say unity, I'm not just talking about amongst conservatives. I don't care if you're conservative. I don't care if you're a liberal. I don't care if you're independent. I know my base is the Trump voter and independents. I understand that. But at the same time, there's a reason why my saying is not black, not white, American. Because we're all American at the end of the day.
I like that.
We really are. We're all American. And I know people like us, when we were growing up, whether it was me living in South Brunswick in that suburban neighborhood or in the hood of New Brunswick, we didn't really have to deal with this race issue like that. I had white friends, I had black friends, I had Spanish friends. I went to their birthday parties, slept over their houses. It wasn't, and not to say there wasn't anything underlying, in other parts of the country, but we just didn't have to deal with that so prevalently back then when we were younger. And now you see the media really just pushing this narrative to just keep us separated and divided and really, be able to control the two factions. So unity is a big part, and I will always continue to speak to all sides of the fence, all Americans, because at the end of the day also, before Trump, I always call myself an independent conservative because, I have views like I think most Americans that can fall on both sides of the fence at the end of the day. I am a conservative, but, obviously, coming from the environment I come from, when it comes to some social things, I might, lean a little bit more center, a little bit left, which I think most Americans are really there.
We're all entitled to our own beliefs and opinions, yes.
So unity is going to be a big thing for me. Obviously, school choice, I talked to you about before. And again, I'm a product, so I'm a product of school choice, so I believe in it. I believe every person should be entitled to have the education they deserve, and not just be stuck in these public schools that are just failing our kids. You look at Baltimore, you look at certain cities in New Jersey, when you have, 50% dropout rates, I mean, again, some of this stuff is just so mind-blowing. It's almost just mind-blowing that there's not more of an uproar and people are more upset about what's actually happening. And, I know people like you, people like me want to bring that anger to Washington and start showing people we can be the change we want to see, and we can start, having better for ourselves and better for the next generation coming up. And, lastly, one of my important issues is going to be term limits. When I survey amongst my supporters, they're all for it. When I survey amongst Democrats and independents, they're all for it. This is an issue that has no party lines. Everybody sees it. Everybody wants it. It's time to break up these political cartels that are sitting in Washington, that are feeling so comfortable. They're just disparaging people, talking down to people. And our movement is to get regular, everyday Americans to start running for office. Our Senate, our House, our politics is just filled with too many lawyers that write these fancy laws, that the average American probably doesn't even understand half the times, and we wonder why 10 years down the road, $1 billion is being taken out of Social Security, and nobody understands why, because they had that little side note in that bill 5 years ago that said they were going to do just that. So, term limits is definitely a big thing in mine, and just like there's term limits on the president for 8 years, just like there's term limits on the Senate for 12 years, I think no more than 5 terms and 10 years for the Congress, and move on and get on with your life.
Exactly. I agree. We need to get, first of all, Nancy Pelosi out. One of the first people.
Absolutely.
So I really appreciate you so much, Darius.
You.
Do you have a location where people can get to know more about you and follow your run as well?
Well, you can do 2 things. We have a podcast, Not Black, Not White American podcast. You can